going to go over the hand movements with the Microlight Pro 7000 with you today. Take a look at the unit. The middle knob is simply the intensity of the microamps. Microamps will go from 100 microamps, and you turn it all the way up, it will reach 1,000 microamps. This particular unit has both microcurrent through microamps and LED. We're going to take the paddles now. Each paddle is about 2.5 inches in diameter, and we're going to set each paddle on automatic. And you will notice that as we set the paddles on automatic, it doesn't necessarily mean that they're in sequence together, and nor do they need to be. Now with this patient, just for the practicality of showing the hand movements, you would have applied MCR in a very thin film, and you would then be at the first level at around, as we turn this now, you would be around the 300 to 400 microamps, which is about a quarter of the way up from the start. We're going to take the paddles at this point, and just as we would with any sort of microcurrent, we want to stimulate down here just below the clavicle so we can get circulation started toward the face. And the stimulation with these paddles is just working them briskly right underneath the clavicle. And then we're going to hold. Once we hold, we'll hold these for about 10 seconds before we move to the next position. So the first position is simply to create circulation. Next position is to hold the paddles right underneath the clavicles. And then we're going to come up and out to the side on the mastoid muscles. We're going to hold here for approximately 10 seconds. And then we're going to come up and underneath the chin. Now notice, if you can see this on the camera, that not all of the little wands are touching the face, and they don't need to touch the face. As a matter of fact, if only 2 of the wands are touching the face, you're getting a closed circuit, and you're actually providing microcurrent to the patient. So we're going to hold under the chin, and then we're simply going to come out to the side, and we're going to lift slightly as we come out. Each one of the paddles has 24 independent microcurrent wands for a total of 48, and each one of the paddles has 17 LED lights for a total of 34. We've held here, and we're simply going to come up to the nasolabial folds and hold. We're going to come out, corners of the eyes, and hold. Now one thing that you can do with this unit that you can't do with traditional microcurrent is that we now can come back over the eye sockets, and notice that we have the paddles over the eye sockets, but at no time is microcurrent actually touching the eyelid, which of course you can't do. We hold that, we lift up, just as we would with any microcurrent. We then grab those the muscles right above the eye and begin to lift and hold. Now I'm going to go over the basic positions again, and then we'll talk about some of the art form of doing the treatment. First position, once again, is circulation. We're going to hold right below the clavicle. Next position is to the mastoid muscles to the outside, and we're going to hold each time for about 10 seconds. Back up underneath the chin, we're going to hold about 10 seconds. Out to the side as we lift for 10 seconds. We're going to come into the nasolabial folds, 10 seconds. Lift the outside of the eyes, 10 seconds. Come back over the eyes, 10 seconds, and then lift the eyebrows. For our next phase, what we're going to do, depending upon the patient and the symptoms the patient may have, is that we have the opportunity to change the LED lights while turning up the microcurrent to mid-range. We also, at this point, want to turn our LED lights to whatever symptom we feel the patient may be in most need of. In this case, what we're going to do is, if we can find where we're headed here, we're going to turn one on red, and we're going to turn the intensity all the way up, and you will notice this one's on red. On the other hand, we're going to turn this unit, the other paddle, out of the mode. We're going to turn this one to green. And we're actually operating separately here on the patient. And if you look in the manual that came with the unit, you'll find out what each one of these LED lights are going to be appropriate for. But we're going to simply start over the process now with the various panels in the same positions that we did before. So circulation below the clavicle, to the mastoid, underneath the chin, to the outside, nasolabial folds, lift the outside of the eye, come over without touching the eyelid, and then lift. Now for the last phase, which would simply be the same procedure, we would go ahead and turn the unit up to the full approximately 800 microamps, and depending upon the patient we may go back to an automatic mode, or we may in fact go to what we call the pulsing mode. The pulsing mode is simply a process where the LED lights are going to pulse on and off. The concept here, especially if you're working on an area where there's thicker skin, is that the pulsing lights are going to give you a little bit more penetration. Now, we're going to take it off the pulsing mode and talk to you for 1 second about the infusion therapy. You should basically look at the DVD for iontophoresis elastin infusion therapy. The difference between using this unit for infusion therapy and using, for example, the 900 or the 950 that we have, is that this is going to tend to plow. By that I mean you'll notice that the little wands are basically not covering much surface at any given time. So you are going to be doing a lot of this as you work in, for example, the first phase, which is chaperone cream, as we know, and then the protein. So a lot of the work with the Microlight Pro 7000 is going to be the opportunity for the technician to look at the patient, make a definition in her mind of what the patient and the patient herself feels like she needs, and then work with the wands in a way and a manner that best fits the patient's symptoms. That's the Microlight 7000.